GCF just means greatest. I can spell common factor, right? Greatest. Absolutely. Absolutely. The biggest number that you could divide into all of the other numbers. So let's see what an example of that might be. Greatest common factor, if I have the number 12 and 8, I can do 1 times 12 is 12, so they're both factors, and 2 times 6 is 12, so they're both factors, and 3 times 4 is 12, so they're both factors. Same thing with 1 and 18, and 2 and 9, and 3 and 6. You can see that the 6 is the biggest number that they have in common. So all I did was write down all of the numbers that when multiplied together make my target numbers, either 12 or 18, and then I look for the biggest one. So 6 is the greatest common factor of those two numbers. Okay. You can also write that in like what some people call a factor tree. So I make my factor trees a little bit differently than some people. I go 12 divided by 1 is 12, and 12 divided by 2 is 6. 12 divided by 3 is 4. Because those two numbers are close to each other, I don't have to go any further. I'm just going down the number line 1, 2, 3, 4 to see which numbers have whole numbers that are factors. So for 18, I do the same thing. 1 and 18, and then 2 and 9 and 3 and 6. 4 doesn't work. It doesn't divide in evenly. 18 divided by 4 gives me a decimal. 5, same thing. 18 divided by 5 is a decimal. So I don't need to use either one of those. Right? So that's another way to kind of visually get those. When you do variables, a to the 5 and a to the 3, you want to find the variable that's the same. So I have a's in both places. And then you want to take out whatever the smaller exponent is. So a to the 5th just means I have 5 a's all being multiplied together. And a to the 3rd means I have 3 a's being multiplied together. So I take out 3 of them. The greatest common factor is a to the 3rd power. Does that make sense so far? Am I hurting anybody's brain? Okay. In the Pear Deck, this video won't work, but in the Google Slides, it will. If at the end of the day today, lesson 1 still doesn't make any sense to you, go watch this 12-minute video. It's another teacher, it's not me, but maybe their explanation will make more sense to you. Okay. I do want to talk about this one though. So if you look at the numbers, the 25 and the 15, and we make our little charts, 25 is 1 and 25. 2 doesn't work, 3 doesn't work, 4 doesn't work, but I can do 5 and 5. And then I can make my little chart with 15. My stylus is being weird today. 1 and 15 and 3 and 5. We can see that 5 is my common factor. So I'm going to take out the 5, and then I've got a's in common. So I've got a squared and a. I'm going to take out the a, right? This is my greatest common factor. So when I divide, 25 divided by 5 is 5. And a squared divided by a is going to give me 1a. 15 divided by 5 is 3, and a to the first power divided by a to the first power, they cancel out, and I'm left with just a 3. So this is going to be my answer. This part is the greatest common factor, and then what's left over inside the parentheses is what remains after I do the division. Okay. Questions on that? I know that was kind of quick. We're going to do some practice now if you're ready for it. All right. Go to slide 5. On the left side of the page, questions 1 through 6, all I want to know is what is in common? What is the greatest common factor? So in question number 1, and I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. Question number 1, what variable is the same? I have an x, yeah. And what is the smallest exponent? 3. So the greatest common factor is x to the 3rd power. Make sense? What can I divide both 2x and 8x by? What's the greatest common factor there?
4.
4 or 2?
4. Wait, no, you said the greatest common factor.
Greatest common factor. So it has to be a factor of both things. If I do that t-chart with the 2, I can only do 1 and 2. 2 is prime, so 1 in itself. And then if I do 8, I've got 1 and 8 and 2 and 4. What's the biggest number in both charts? 2. So my greatest common factor is going to be 2. And I've got x's in this term and y's in this term, so there's no variables that are the same. So the greatest common factor is just going to be 2. What about number 3?
Wouldn't it just be 2?
It would be. So let's kick it up a notch. My greatest common factor goes to the outside of the parentheses, right? What is 10 divided by 2?
5.
So inside the parentheses, I need a 5, and then I keep that a to the 4th power. And then I don't have an operation in there, so I'm just going to write the word and. And then 4 divided by 2, it's what?
You said 4 divided by 2?
Mm-hmm.
That's 2.
That's just 2. So somebody I haven't heard from yet, just look at the numbers in number 4. What's the biggest number you can divide 4 and 36 both by?
9.
Can I divide 4 by 9?
Oh, no.
4. So I want to divide by 4, and that's going to put a 9 on the inside, right? So keep that 9 in your head. There's a reason your brain came up with 9. So then I want to look at my variables. So I always do numbers first and variables second. Which exponent is smaller, 7 or 5?
5.
5. So we're going to write k to the 5th power and k to the 5th power. Okay. This number, that 4k to the 5th power, is what you've taken out. It's like undistributing something. Instead of distributing and multiplying to put it in, you're dividing to take it out. So then we got to do the division. 4 divided by 4 is 1. And then k7 divided by k5. When you divide like this, you really want to subtract. So what our invisible math that's happening is 7 minus 5. Subtract those exponents when you're dividing, and you get k squared. And then we're just going to keep the word and. And then what was 36 divided by 4?
9.
That was the 9. So we put 9 at the end, and k to the 5th power divided by k to the 5th power. Anything divided by itself is just 1. Try number 5 on your own. See if you can do number 5. When you think you have the greatest common factor, put it in the chat. What can I divide both 18 and 42 by? I like the 6. Let's verify it. So if I have 18, I'm going to do 1 and 18. Then I'm just going to go down my number line. 2 and 9 multiply to 18. And 3 and 6 multiply to 18. So then I'm going to do 42. 1 and 42. 2 and 21. 3, I picked up my calculator last time to verify this, but it's 14. 42 divided by 4 doesn't give me a whole number. 42 divided by 5 doesn't give me a whole number. And then 42 divided by 6 is 7. The biggest common factor that I see is that 6. So if you're not quite sure, that's how we got it. And then what variable do I need?
X.
X to the what?
Second power.
The second power, absolutely. Take that lower exponent. So outside the parentheses, we have undistributed 6x squared. So now we've got to do our division. What's 18 divided by 6?
3.
And what mental math do I need to do here if I'm doing x to the 5th divided by x squared?
Subtract.
5 minus 2, absolutely. So that's going to be x cubed. And then what do I get for my second term?
7.
Absolutely. And the x squared cancels out to 1, and 7 times 1 is just 1. Last question has 3 things in it. What is common to all 3 things? 6. So we're going to divide everything by 6. There's no x in this middle term, so that's why we can't use an x. So I'm going to have 6, and then 12x divided by 6 gives me what? 12x
2.
divided by 6 gives me 2 what?
X.
Absolutely. Then I have a comma, so I'm just going to rewrite it exactly the way I see it. And then 6 divided by 6 is what? 1. Don't forget that. Anything divided by itself is always 1. You learned it a long, long time ago, and it hasn't been important, but it's going to be super important in Algebra 2. And then what happens when I do 12x squared divided by 6? I do get 2 again. And what variable? What do I have to do with the x? X squared, because I'm not dividing by any x's, right? Sweet. We are 1/3 done. You ready to go to the other side?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see if my computer will be smart. Look at that. All right. Here we're going to do the exact same thing. Try number 7 on your own, and when you think you have an answer, put it in the chat. What can I divide both 18R and 12 by? Still 6? Yeah, absolutely. So that goes outside my parentheses, and then what goes inside my parentheses?
3R.
3R here, because 18 divided by 6 is 3, and then you just put in the R. And then you always want to keep that sign. So whatever that sign is, you want to put that. And then what's my second term?
2.
2. Sweet. Next one, what's common to 25x squared and 10x?
5.
5 what?
5.
X squared or just x? What's the smaller what's the smaller exponent? Yep, that invisible 1, that just x. So that goes on the outside. That's the greatest common factor. And then what goes on the inside?
5.
Do I need any variables anywhere?
Yeah.
So I've got x squared divided by x. So I'm going to do 2 minus 1 is 1x. You guys are picking this up so quickly. All right, question number 9.
3.
Is there something bigger than 3? I like 3. I don't know.
No.
9.
So if I do 18, I've got 1 and 18 and 2 and 9 and 3 and 6. And then I do 27. I have 1 and 27 and 3 and 9. And that's it. So the 3 would work, but then you'd have to take another 3 out later. It's best if you get the biggest number first. It's not imperative, but it is best. And then how many n's? What exponent do I need to use?
17.
N2 or N3?
3.
N3 is the smallest exponent that I have. Right? So N3. So when you do that division, do your numbers first. All you're practicing here is taking one big complex problem and breaking it down to a bunch of smaller ones. So 18 divided by 9 is?
2.
Absolutely. And n to the 4th divided by n to the 3rd is?
Just n.
Just n, because we're doing 4 minus 3. That's the invisible math that we're doing inside our heads. And then I keep that subtraction sign, super important not to lose track of that. And then 27 divided by 9 is?
3.
And do I need any n's? What happens with n to the 3rd power divided by n to the 3rd power?
They cancel each other.
They do. Anything divided by itself cancels out. So that is going to be our answer. The next one looks easier, but sometimes those easy problems will trip you up. So don't overthink it. What can I take out of 4b and 12a? No, it is absolutely 4. You got it. Are there any variables that they have in common?
4.
I've got a b in the first term and an a in the second term. So do they have anything in common?
No.
And I know exactly why Elias said 3, because 3 is the answer to 12 divided by 4, right? So the 4 is our greatest common factor. It goes on the outside. And then our mental math, because we're so smart, we go too fast. 12 divided by 4 is 3. So automatically you think greatest common factor is 4, the answer is 3, and you say 3 instead of 4. Like your brain just gets one step ahead. It happens all the time. What's my first term? If I've got 4 as the common factor, I pulled that out to the outside of the parentheses. I know my second term, 12a divided by 4 is 3a. What's the answer to the first term?
1.
1 what? 1b. Perfect. Perfect. Okay. We're rocking and rolling. What can I divide 6x cubed, 12x, and 21 by?
3, right?
3, absolutely. Sometimes it's tempting to try to do the 6, but 6 does not go into 21, so you got to back up to 3. Are there any common variables in all 3 of those terms? We have an x cubed and an x and then no x.
No.
There is not. So 3 is our greatest common factor. We've started with 3 terms, so we're going to have 3 things inside the parentheses. What's the first term inside the parentheses once I do 6 divided by 3?
2.
Awesome. 2x cubed. We're going to keep that cubed because we didn't divide by any x's. And then what's 12x divided by 3 turn into? What's my second term?
4.
And then the very last thing,
7.
7. Notice that my first operation was a plus and my second operation was a minus. And my first operation is still a plus and my second operation is still a minus. Those are not going to change unless you take out a negative sign, which we're not practicing right now. The last one looks crazy. we're still going to take it one step at a time. Like I said, all we're practicing today is breaking up one big complex problem into a series of little tiny easy problems. So look at your numbers first. What can I divide 36 and 6 by?
6.
6. 100% 6. Then look at your variables. I've got an x to the 4th and an x to the 5th. Which one is smaller? The 4. So I'm going to use that one. X to the 4th and x to the 4th. And then look at your y's. See if my bright blue will show up. Y to the 5th and y to the 3rd. Which one is smaller? The 3rd. So we're going to use that. Y to the 3rd and y to the 3rd. That's our greatest common factor. So 6, x to the 4th, y to the 3rd is our greatest common factor. Then we've got to go through and do our division, right? So if we go through and do our division, 36 divided by 6 is 6. X to the 4th divided by x to the 4th cancels out. And then that's a y to the 3rd that's so hard to read down there. So my invisible math is going to be 5 minus 3. So that's going to be y to the second power. We keep our operation. That does not change. So I need to take my plus sign. And then we do the numbers, right? You're just breaking this into 3 little division problems. 6 divided by 6 makes 1. X to the 5th divided by x to the 4th makes how many x's? 5 x's divided by 4 x's leaves me 1 x. And then y to the 3rd divided by y to the 3rd. That is hard to see down there, but it's y to the 3rd. Those guys are going to cancel out. So we're going to be left with that. How do we feel about those? Should we practice?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to zoom out. It's going to look crazy when I zoom out because all of the writing is going to be on top of each other. Whole bunch of craziness. Next slide says no peeking, but the following slide, if you want to check your work, if you're not sure, if I made a mess of your life, these are the ultimate answers. So if you want to check your work, they are right here, okay? I encourage you to make any corrections. Did we get any different answers than they got? Remember, this is kind of...
We just made more equation things.
We did, yeah. We made more of these things because I think this gets a little, like, that's just too easy, right? What I would like to do is have you guys go back into here and click on this lesson 1 factoring practice. I would like to put you in breakout rooms and have you guys practice this for maybe 15 minutes, work together, and then we'll come back together and we'll see what we got. How do you feel about that?
Sure.
Okay. Do you want to choose your rooms? Do you want me to put you in randomly? Do you want me to choose for you? How should we do the breakout rooms? What can I divide 2, 6, and 10 all by? 2. Yeah, absolutely. Oops. I don't know where my thing went. Disappeared. That's frustrating. Okay, so I definitely can eliminate this answer choice because I know I need a 2 in it. So then look at the x's. I've got x to the 3rd power, x to the 4th power, and x to the 5th power. What's the smallest exponent you see for the x's? X to the 3, x to the 4, x to the 5. What's the smallest exponent you see?
3.
X to the 3. So I know I need an x to the 3. If I've already eliminated this answer choice because it doesn't have a 2, I can eliminate this because it doesn't have an x3, and I can eliminate this because it doesn't have an x cubed. So this has to be my answer choice. You can verify that with the y's. I've got y to the 8th power. That means there's 8 y's. I've got y to the second power, that means there's 2 y's, and y to the 10th power, that means there's 10 y's. So I want that y squared, and that's what I have right here. So go ahead and look at number 2. What could I do? It's going to be the same process. Got w cubed and then 3w. Is there a number that's the same in both? Or a variable that's the same? What can I divide both w cubed and 3w by?
1.
1 what? Are there the same variable in both?
1w.
1w. So which one has 1w outside the parentheses as the greatest common factor? That guy right there. That's the only answer choice that can be possible because the greatest common factor is w. Should we do one more?
Yes.
Okay. What about here? Look at the 54, the 9, and the 54. What can I divide all of those numbers by and get a whole number? 54, 9, and 54.
By 9.
9.
Absolutely. So I know my choices is going to have to be one of those 4. It can't be this one, right? So I can eliminate that. Then look at the variables. I've got n squared, n to the 5th, and n squared. What's the smallest exponent?
N squared.
N squared. So I know it's not going to be the 9, and it's not going to be the n to the 5th power. It's going to be one of these two. Do I have an m, like Mary, in all 3 terms? Or do I just have the m in one of them?
Just 1.
Just one. So I can't take an m out because they don't exist in all of them. So that has to be at 9n squared. And if you want to check it, you can multiply it back together by distributing back inside the parentheses. 9 times 6 is going to be 54n squared. 9n times n cubed is going to be 9n to the 5th. When you multiply exponents together, you're going to add the exponents. And then 9 times 6 is going to be 54. I've got my minuses. N squared m. So that's my last answer. See if you can do 4, 5, and 6. I'm going to leave and go check on the last group, and then I will be back, okay? Or we'll meet up back in the room. But talk to each other, guys. I think you've got it at this point. Somebody be brave and share question number 4. Victoria, how you doing? We've got 4 more minutes. What happened to my 4th group? Well, I guess that was it.